Hello, fifth graders. Happy Wednesday. So you should have just finished with our correcting homework video for last night's homework of page 597 and 598, numbers 1 through 6, 8, and 13. If you haven't corrected that homework already using the video, you need to stop this video, go back to our correcting homework video, correct last night's homework, then you can come back and do today's lesson. If you have already corrected your homework with that video, let's go ahead and get started. So today we are titling our notes 10.3 Volume of Prisms and today's date 3/31/21. So 10.3 Volume of Prisms 3/31/21. Now you might be wondering, Miss E, what more could there possibly be with the volume of prisms? You've already shown us the formula, length times width times height. That's all we need, right? Well, fifth grade, you will sometimes be given a rectangular prism and you'll be given all the information you need, but it will look a little different. And that's what we're going to practice today. You will still be given, well, why are we getting blurry? There we go. It's funny how I need to put my hand in there to get it clear. We're going to go over a certain way, and you may have already seen this on your map test sometimes, actually, because I remember some of you telling me after your last map test that it was asking about volume, and we hadn't gotten to volume yet. We were still working on fractions. So I think some of you may have seen volume this way. And it's just as easy. It's just a little different way of doing it. So let's go ahead and get started. And this is what makes it different. And actually, let's just start with this. Sorry. So sometimes we are only given the area of the base and the height and need to find the volume. And go ahead and get that written down. Sometimes we are only given the area of the base and the height and need to find the volume. So what that means, fifth grade, is instead of being given the length, the width, and the height separately, sometimes we are given a rectangular prism. Remember, that's just a 3D box, a 3D rectangle. Sometimes we're given that prism, and instead of having the length, the width, and the height all written out for us like we have been or labeled, we are given the height like usual, but then they tell us, okay, the area of the base is 36. Well, all that means is they've already multiplied the length and the width together. I'm going to show you that in a second. So they've taken two of our measurements and already combined it for us. So instead of multiplying three numbers together, we only have to multiply two. And I'll explain to you why this works. So here's an example of something you might see. You might be given a rectangular prism, but the base, remember the base is like the bottom of our rectangular prism. So if I was looking at my Scotch tape box, the bottom is the part we can't see. It's down here, right? If I place this on my notebook, the bottom of my box is touching the notebook. If I stood it up this way, the bottom has changed. Instead of it being this side, it's now this side. Now that is the bottom of my box. It's touching my notebook. But whatever side it is, the base is the bottom. So here we can see the base is colored in. That's colored in green. That's our base. And then we have our height. Remember the height? That's how tall it is. So what will happen is sometimes maybe we're told, okay, the height is 3 inches and the area of the base is, say, 36 inches squared. You might be thinking, gosh, what on earth does this mean, Missy? All that it means. We still have our height, but the length and the width, do you guys notice how this base is the shape of a rectangle? Well, in order to find the area of the base, and it's a rectangle, we would need to take the length times the width to find the area of this base, right? Well, if they give us the number 36 inches squared as the area of the base, they multiplied the length times the width for us. They took one of the steps away from us. They already solved it for us. So 5th grade, when you see a prism like this where they give you the area of the base and just the height, you're only having to multiply 2 numbers instead of 3. So actually the joke is on our math books because they just did some of the work for us. So all that I would do here is I would take the area of my base, 36 inches. Remember, this is already my length and my width multiplied together. And I just take the 36 and I multiply it by the 3. So to explain, what this means is that the length and the width have already been multiplied together to form the base area, or to figure out the base area. Go ahead and get that written down. Go ahead, take a moment, get that written down. So what we're practicing today, 5th grade, is going back and forth. Sometimes having prisms where we're given the base, the area of the base and the height, and sometimes being given prisms where we have the 3 dimensions like usual, length, width, and height. So we have another formula we're going to write down for this, and it's exactly as I said. This is what I call volume formula number 2. This is when we take the area of the base and we multiply it by the height. Remember, the area of the base, the length and width are already multiplied. So don't just think it's a random number. Like, oh, they just decided it would be 36. What they've done is they have already multiplied the length times the width for us and said, okay, well, that's 36. And our job is just to take that base area and multiply it by the height. We're doing that last step. They do the first step, we do the last step. So volume formula number 2, we take the area of the base and we multiply it by the height. They've already done some of the work for us, which is pretty darn cool if you ask me. So what we are going to do, we're going to do one together, and then you're going to have a few that you get to do on your own. So again, at any time, if I'm going too fast or you need more time, pause the video, please. All right, so I'm going to scoot this up. Grab my sticky note. Cover up the ones I don't want you to do yet. Sure, these 2. All right, so the one we're working on is this one. Go ahead and get that drawn out. Do your best. In 5th grade, if what you need to do is draw out, like, I know in the past I've told you don't need to do the dotted lines. If what you want to do is draw out your prism with all the solid lines, then maybe just do your best, kind of like a little filled in area down here. That is good enough. Just make sure for your 16 yards, you're putting the squared and you're putting the area pointing to that colored in area, that base or that bottom. Because this tells you it's the area of the base. First of all, it's pointing at it. And second of all, we have that squared symbol. Because remember, when we square something, that's usually the area of a 2-dimensional figure. So we have a 2D rectangle down there. They found the dimension or the area of it. Okay, so we've practiced, finding the volume with length times width times height. So right now we're going to practice finding it when instead of being given length, width, and height, we're given the height, but instead of length and width, they've combined it already into the area of the base. So all that we do, 5th grade, we take the area of our base, which in this case is 16. It's pointing at the base, 16. And we multiply it by the height, which is 2. So I would take 16 times 2. What is 16 times 2, 5th grade? It is 32. And the same rules apply for our unit. I look at the unit they've given us, yard, yard, so yard. And we're still finding the area. I know here it has a 2, but that's because they're talking about the area of just the bottom. Like if I was talking about my Scotch tape box, if I found just the area of this side, that's not the volume. The volume is how much fits inside my box. The area is just how much would fit on top, not inside. So how much would cover this, not how much it would fit inside. So I still need to put the 3. We're finding volume. So my answer would be 32 yards cubed. How many of you think this is easier than the original volume formula? Some of you are probably thinking, yeah, Miss E, I only have to multiply 2 numbers instead of 3. Exactly. Today, though, like I said, we're practicing both. So some of your examples, you're given length, width, and height, and you have to multiply the 3 together. Others, though, will be just like this, where you're given the area of the base, and you're given your height, and you just have to multiply the 2 together. So with that being said, here are the rest of your examples. Your practice problems, I should say. So you can see this blue one, we're given the length, the width, and the height. This green one, we're given the area of the base times the height. Our orange one, we're given the length, the width, and the height. The purple one, we're given the area of the base and the height. And then our pink one, we're given the length, the width, and the height. These are M's, by the way, MM, MM, MM. So, what I would like you to do, get this all written out to the best of your ability, drawn out. Find the volume of all 5 of these shapes. Then come back to the video and see if you get the same volume that I do. So go ahead, pause the video, find the volume of these rectangular prisms. All right, 5th grade, let's go ahead and solve these. So for our blue one, or actually let me first move this over a little bit so I have space for my hand. Okay, for our blue one, we're not given the area of the base times the height. We're given the length, the width, and the height. So I need to multiply all 3 of these together. Now I'm realizing I probably should have moved this row down a little bit so I had a little bit more room to work. But that's okay. I'll just have to make sure I remember, or I am very intentional with putting my work as close to this prism as possible. So I know with volume formula number 1, or the original one, I would take 8 times 3 times 12. 8 times 3 times 12. Well, if I'm taking 8 times 3 times 12, I would first want to start with 8 times 3, which is 24. 8 times 3 is 24. Then I would take 24 times 12, which equals 288. They give me the unit feet, 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 feet. And I am finding the volume, so I need my 3. So my final answer is 288 feet cubed. I'm going to do a little arrow just to remind myself that that's the one I'm talking about. Okay. Then we have our green one. Now for our green one, are we given length, width, and height? No. We're given the area of the base. So they've already multiplied the length and the width together for us. How nice of them. And we are given the height, or how tall it is, which is 7 feet. So I just need to take these 2 and multiply them. So I would take, let's put it right here, 153 times 7. And when I take 153 and I multiply it by 7, I wind up with 1,071. And my unit, again, is feet. Feet, feet. And now, even though this number has a 2, it's squared, a 2 as an exponent, I know I'm finding volume. So I don't put a 2 in my answer, I put a 3. So 1,071 feet cubed. Okay, then going down to our second row, I have this orange prism. Now for this one, I'm given the length, the width, and the height. So I need to multiply all 3 of these numbers. So 10 times 2 times 5. Well, if I take 10 times 2, that gets me 20. And 20 times 5 gets me 100. My unit is meters, 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 meters. And I'm finding the volume, so I need to cube it. So 100 meters cubed. 2 more. You guys are doing great. Purple one. I'm not given length, width, and height. I'm given the area of the base and the height. So I know that means I just take my 25 and I multiply it by 10. So 25 times 10. Well, I know whenever I multiply something by 10, it's the same as taking the original number and adding a 0 onto it. So 25 times 10 equals 250. The unit is inches. And again, even though they put a 2 as the exponent here, I know that's because I found the area of the bottom side, which that's a 2D rectangle. I'm finding volume, 3-dimensional. So I need a 3. So 250 inches cubed. Last one, 5th grade. You've been doing great. So our last one, we got a little guy here. I'm given the length, the width, and the height. So I need to take all 3 and multiply them. So I would take 5 times 10 times 4. Well, 5 times 10 is 50. 50 times 4 is 200. And my unit is mm. Well, mm, that stands for millimeters. Millimeters. And since I'm finding the volume, I put a 3. So 200 millimeters cubed. Awesome. So 5th grade, I have to ask, which method of finding volume do you like better? Do you prefer being given the 3 lengths, 8 times 3 times 12, and finding the volume? Or do you prefer being given the area of the base and the height and multiplying just those 2 numbers together? What is your preference? Okay. You'll see them either way. You'll see them both ways. A lot of the time, I'll say, most of the time, I feel like I've seen them throughout school when I was growing up with the length, the width, and the height. But I have been seeing it more this way as well with the area of the base. So it's good to know both ways of finding the volume of a rectangular prism. So, homework time. Please go ahead in your math workbook, open up to page 603 and 604. 603, 604. So on page 603 and 604, I would like you to please circle numbers 1 through 5. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. number 10, and number 11. So again, page 603 and 604, you are circling numbers 1 through 5, 10, and 11. Nice work today, 5th grade.